We have let this Garden Gate glaze dry for about 10 minutes, and it's just barely tacky to the touch. And now I'm going to use the same brush that I used to apply the glaze, which I've unloaded all of the moisture off of, so it's pretty much a dry brush, because I don't want to have any rough looking rubbing on the Chagrin metal leaf. And I'm just going to use the brush sideways and lay it into that tacky glaze. And it's kind of a waiting game, because you want to have the glaze be still moist enough that it will grab the metal leaf and not let it go, but not so moist that it gets muddy and gets all over the leaf. And this is, right now, we're lucky it's just perfect. And 10 minutes is about it. And I will tell you, if you're doing a larger piece, I wouldn't try and do this on the entire piece. I would do a little bit at a time, wait 10 minutes, do this brushing, do the next section, wait 10 minutes. It's kind of good to do in between your ironing or your dishwashing or whatever you do, because you don't want to try and do the whole thing, because as you're working on this part of it, this part over here will get too dry and then you won't get the adhesion. You can see I need to go over it a couple different directions to get it to really take. And the lovely thing about this metal leaf is that it's so thin. It's not like doing decoupage or doing paper. It actually melts right into the glaze and adheres to it and kind of becomes one with it. And you don't feel a lot of texture. And you don't have to do a lot of heaviness on top of it to get it to stick. So now that I've done that with the brush, I'm just going to take a very clean terry cloth towel, the type that you can get at the big box stores, and I'm going to use a flat surface of that, and I'm just going to go over it and rub it very lightly and get the last of the loose bits off. And again, I'm not having to worry that there's some negative space in between the gold leaf, because I'm not trying to do 100% coverage. And I'm just going to very lightly keep going over this until there's no more flakes coming off, which only takes a minute. I'm not rubbing very hard, I'm just very lightly going over the surface to break off the loose ends. You don't want to rub too hard and go through to the glaze, because the glaze is still not cured, it's still soft, and if I were to rub too hard, I'd start smudging it. So I'm just barely going over it, no pressure. And that's great. Most of that did stick, which is just what we want. And you can see on the table surface there's a little bit that came off, not too much. Okay, so now I'm just going to continue to very softly rub over the surface to get off all of those loose ends. And I don't want to push too hard, because this glaze, even though it's dry, is not cured, and if I were to start pushing too hard, I would work into it and start smearing it and making a mess. So I'm just very lightly going over it. Now this surface is not protected, it's very delicate because it's so thin, and so what we'll do is let this dry, and then to enhance it, I'm going to go over it with the wax in dark umber and rub that on, and that will give it a nice satin finish. And I'll let that dry, and then I'll go back and actually seal it with the clear coat. And because of the shininess of the metallic, I'm going to use semi-gloss so that it does not cut the shininess. So again, you just buff it a little bit, let it dry, put on the dark wax for enhancement, let that dry, wipe that off, and then do the clear coat. That'll be next. Hey guys, okay, we're back to finish up our metal leaf sample board. We have got the Garden Gate glaze, we've got the metal flakes in gold. We did a light coat of dark umber wax to give it an antique effect, and now we're going to seal it so that it's safe from damage. And I don't usually use the semi-glaze. I got my muscles here. Thank you. I don't usually use the semi-gloss finish because I like to have the satin over the chalk-based paint, so it keeps that kind of soft shine. But when you're doing metal leaf, you want to go for it. So I am using the semi-gloss because that's not going to cut back on the shine after all the work we've gone to get this drama. We want to make sure that it stays. And the semi-gloss is wonderful. It doesn't have too many resins in it, so it stays very clear and really preserves that shine. I always think this finish is something that you want to do in an entry hall or a dining room where the chandelier catches the different metal flakes, because it really does have some wonderful drama. And I invite you to go through Instagram and Pinterest and some of the things online and look for things that are done with silver and gold and copper metal leaf, because there's so many ideas out there. And there really is nothing like it. And it's, especially with this leaf, this flake, it's not hard to do. You can see we had really good luck using just the glaze and the wax and the clear coat. And I will let this dry and do one more coat over it so that it's really sealed. But look at how pretty that is with the light. Have fun with this.